right, so next we have Mr. Tyler Tork, who's going to be reading from his new book, which is coming out in February, that is called The Deep End. It is steampunk mystery and intrigue, and I think it's going to be pretty rad. So come on up, bud.
Thank you. Howdy. A little background, because I'm going to jump into the middle of the book here. Marlee, one of our protagonists, grew up in Cleveland, but her mind is unexpectedly inhabiting a different body in a different world. Her new body is different in that it's round, brown, and lesbian, so you might say she has identity issues. She must keep it secret from her new Borgia-like family that she has no memory of them or her life here. Her maid Clora is helping her with this, but has recently chewed her out for drinking too much and making slips. In this section, Marlee is fleeing a nightclub after finding herself attracted to the singer, a woman named Cholula, who also seems very interested. She's had more than a few drinks at this point. Roges preceded her out the door, looked around, then stood aside to let her out. The other guard followed. Dark had fallen, the street was mostly empty, and the green streetlights were misted in wispy, acrid-smelling fog. Tannery. She was getting to know the smells of the city. She started for home. She'd have to go back to the big house tomorrow. Bilamar, that's her secretary, was likely to pop a blood vessel if she stayed away longer, and her father and grandfather had both sent insistent notes in the most recent packet of papers. She didn't feel apprehensive at the moment. Even drunk, she'd done fine tonight. Clora was a worrywart. She could handle her liquor. She would be okay, all right. Okay is not a word there. At the big house. Then, things started happening. Roges stepped up beside her, his arm rising smoothly, the disc of his hand shield blocking her view. There was a loud clang, and his hand jerked toward her face. She stumbled back, confused. There was a distant, flat crack, and Roges stepped in front of her while someone grabbed her roughly and pulled her back, the other guard. A second clang, a shower of sparks from the metal pan on Roges' shoulder, a ping from the stone wall behind her. Now Roges was backing up, following her and the other guard toward the corner they'd just rounded. Something buzzed past her cheek, followed by a third crack. Then they were around the corner. Someone's shooting at me. And how stupid that must sound. Roges had somehow managed to block 2 shots and get her behind cover before she even knew what was happening. How did you... Her question was drowned out as Roges raised his forearm to his lips and blew into a tube that was soldered to his armor, producing a piercing whistle. The guards crowded her against the wall, facing outward. Marlee looked around wildly for attacks from other directions in the gaps between them, but there were just a few people on the street running away. Feet pounded toward them from the direction of the crooked dog. She tensed, but as the runner passed under a streetlight, she recognized the pointed helmet and brass-on-black uniform, a policeman. Another officer arrived from around the corner, and Roges spoke to them both, low-voiced, sending them after the would-be assassin. Then he hustled her back the way they'd come, one large hand on the small of her back, staying between her and the street. I don't want to go back there. Take me home. Don't be an idiot. When people are shooting, you get off the street. Am I hearing you right? You're calling me an idiot? You know better than this, miss. The big man's voice was tight with worry and frustration. The last few days, you've paid no attention to security. You go out without your special dishware or your gun. You sit outside at cafes. You don't give us notice where you're going. We were supposed to be relieved an hour ago, but our replacements wouldn't know where to find us, would they? Now my dose is wearing off. You saw how late I was stopping those bullets. Late? He hadn't even seemed to be hurrying. And what did he mean about his dose? That it seemed a bad time to argue when he had a fresh dent in his shield that would have been a hole in her head otherwise. Anyway, he had a point. I'm sorry, Roges. You're right. I've been distracted. He shot her a narrow look, then leaned forward to check out an alley. You say I'm right? Yeah, if I make any more mistakes, say so. Huh. Roges seemed to relax slightly. They reached the crooked dog, and he crowded through the doorway with her. Messenger, he told the doorman, now. Now we're switching points of view to her maid, Clora. People noticed, of course, when Marlee returned so soon after leaving. The band's break wasn't even over yet, so there was plenty of attention to spare for sudden arrivals of prominent persons. Clora could tell something was wrong. Marlee stood near the doorway, stock still, face expressionless, left thumb rubbing her index finger. One guard spoke to a busboy. Clora stood, but the guard pushed the boy toward the door, and the two of them started for the table. The other guard stayed at the door. I'm feeling better now, Marlee smiled at DeGriz, this is her minion, who's not in on her situation, as he stood and pulled out her chair for her. I guess I just needed some air. Her voice seemed overly bright. A waiter followed her to the table, and when he suggested another peppermill, she shook her head. Tonic water. The waiter looked confused. Tonic? She wants water. Drunk or not, Clora had best find a way to snap Marlee out of it before she made a major thumb and eye. Cholula leaned toward Marlee. Eddie tells me you sing. Marlee shot DeGriz a poisoned glance. He overheard me in the bath, and he's been giving me a hard time about it. He says you have a lovely voice. DeGriz leaned in. I think you should go on stage and sing something. The crowd would love it. Marlee smiled sweetly. And I think I'll stab you with my little knife. The guitar player was trying to get their attention from the stage. Thank the gods. Clora nudged Alyssa and pointed. Break's over. Alyssa stood and gave Jane a quick peck on the cheek. Walk me home after? Without a doubt. Cholula stood and smoothed her gown. I hoped to speak with you, she said to Marlee. Just at the moment, I have enough problems. Cholula inclined her head. I'll be in town 2 more weeks, should you find you have the attention to spare. I'm at the River Inn. Marlee looked annoyed. Is not true what? Marlee looked down at Clora's hand, clamped around her forearm. Dance with me, Clora said.